people that feel like they cannot get out, they have no way to get out. That is not this defendant. And it never was.
He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back.
Ms. Benefield, the jury, having found you guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, going to remand you to the custody of the Manatee County Sheriff, where they're going to revoke your bonds, where you'll be held pending sentencing.
This ballerina was accused of murdering her husband, but did she do it? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And today we have intern Red with us, as well as Yoli. How are you guys doing today?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So we have this interesting case of a young ballerina getting involved with an older gentleman. Did she kill him in an attempt to get out of the relationship? What's going on?
Oh boy, what a trial. The trial went on for about 6 days, and I don't know if you guys followed it. I tried to watch as much as I can, but again, I'm still trying to maintain a law practice. I don't know how some of these YouTubers who are on constantly for hours and hours and hours and hours do it. I really don't, because I'd love to do it. But in any event, former ballerina Ashley Benefield did face charges of killing her husband, Doug. In September of 2020, the Florida couple were in the middle of a heated custody battle when Ashley shot Doug. Prosecutors believe that Ashley murdered Doug so that she could gain full custody of their daughter. Ashley claims that she shot Doug in self-defense after months of alleged abuse. The medical examiner does not believe Doug was facing Ashley when she fired off 4 rounds at him. Those are just some of the key facts in the case. But in a very unusual move in this trial, Ashley Benefield took the stand and testified. And as you know, no criminal defendant has a duty to testify in their own behalf. So, Yoli, I thought that was very unusual, didn't you?
Well, in self-defense cases, usually the defendant should probably testify, because if it's self-defense, they need to talk about why they felt the need for self-defense. Because if you just put on one side and you try to use circumstantial evidence to show that the state of mind of the defendant was that she was in fear and needed to defend herself, it's actually something that is probably more common than not. I mean, I don't know if you remember the Menendez brothers.
Oh yeah.
They testified because they were saying they were threatened, and it was in self-defense because they believed they were going to be, hurt or harmed. So it doesn't surprise me, only because she's claiming self-defense.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're right. The general rule of thumb, I think, in Criminal Defense 101 is you never want to put your defendant on the stand. You never want to put the person on the stand because you don't know what they're going to say. They could be a rolling cannon on the deck, and you never know what's going to come up in cross-examination. But your point is very good that how else do you get the facts of self-defense into a jury? I mean, unless there's a witness, and that's going to be rare. There were only 2 of them in a room at the time. So I want the 3 of you to be jurors, and you tell me, obviously, the testimony that Ashley gave went on for hours and hours and hours, and we've clipped it down to about 3.5 minutes. So let's take a look, and I want you 3 to tell me if you think, did she do a good job?
I ran to try to leave the house.
And where did you run to?
To the front door.
Did you make it?
No.
Tell us what happened.
He stopped me. He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back. I'm not really sure how he did it, but he spun around so he was in front of me, between me and the door.
So
he said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He said, "Where the fuck do you think you're going?"
What was your response? Do you specifically recall? Tell us.
I just blurted it out. I said, "I'm done, and you need to leave now."
What was Doug's reaction to that command to leave now?
He said, "You can't fucking leave me."
Then what happens?
All right, I'm going to stop it there. I think this is compelling. The room was split. I did watch this on a couple of different channels, and people were adamantly feeling one way or the other. Some people thought she made a compelling case for this. Other people felt that she wasn't being truthful. I thought that the prosecutor was incredibly not sensitive at all when in her closing she said, Ashley looked like she was crying, but you didn't see any tears. I mean, I don't know. I thought that was really crass for her to say. I don't know. Do you guys think that she's being compelling so far, or are you buying it?
I don't know. It's hard because ultimately, when you're recounting a story like this, you're going to be emotional. But at the same time, almost with the prosecutor side, I question, like, we're having a lot of, and I'm not a body language expert, I don't really know, but I can almost kind of see that perspective. There's something about it, but at the end of the day, it's just like you have small snippets of a person's conversation. So I don't know.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Brett.
I've seen enough like fake crying, just manipulative people to know what that looks like, and she's trying a little bit too hard. Her entire face is scrunched. I mean, if she was like trying to hold back tears, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say here? Like, the point that I'm trying to get across?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
she's
kind yeah.
almost
I don't agree
trying
at all.
to
I
get
think
tears out of her body.
I think this was very compelling testimony. I mean, we're going to find out more about things that were going on before I started up again. Yoli, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that this reminds me of the Jodi Arias trial. Do you guys remember that?
Yep.
Where she too was claiming abuse and self-defense. I believe she was claiming self-defense. And whether or not, I mean, she appears truthful, I can't tell right now. Like, it just seems like I can't tell. It's one of those things where you see a snippet and you need a little bit more in context.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
let's
do
go.
want to build on that. I mean, I know I personally am a messy crier. It's like my nose is red. I'm like falling apart, which is like everybody's going to be a little bit different. So it's just like, is she just a little bit not as nasty as I would be about it,
Boy,
Like,
oh boy. Well, you guys
Yeah.
must have been on the jury, because I totally disagree with the three of you. I think it's very genuine. I watched more of the trial. All right, let's watch more.
He hit me on the side of the head. He had never actually hit me before.
What did you do?
I ran
Where?
to my room
Why?
because I was scared.
Ashley, did you have anything in your room that could protect you?
I had my gun.
Did you grab the gun?
Yes.
As you're grabbing the gun, what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the door hitting the doorstop.
As if it is flung open?
Yes.
And what do you see, Ashley, when you look up?
Doug was standing in the doorway. His face was red. Like the veins were bulging in his neck. The way he was looking at me, it didn't even look like Doug. His eyes were black.
Does he yell anything at you?
He said, "You're f***ing done."
And what does he do at that point?
I held the gun like in front of me, and I said, "Stop." And he like turned and he got into this like it was like a fighting stance. I got low and he started like moving his arms and his hands around. He was making these like jerking motions.
What were you expecting when you were holding the gun out in front of you and you told him to stop?
I thought when he saw it, he would leave.
Did he?
No.
At that point, Ashley, what are you thinking?
I thought he was going to kill me.
Tell us what happens next.
So the whole thing, the whole case revolves around this testimony. I mean, there were 6 days of testimony. There were other witnesses, but the whole case revolves about whether or not they believe her. I don't know. We don't agree in the room here, but that's okay.
Coming towards me, and then he lunged at me, and I started pulling the trigger, and he just kept coming. And I remember trying to move to get away from him, but he kept coming at me.
You're firing. He keeps advancing. What happens next?
It was like his feet slipped out from under him and his legs went up in the air.
When Doug hits the floor, what's your immediate reaction?
I ran to get help.
All right. The two of them, Ashley and Doug, had been moving things out of Ashley's mother's home in Lakewood Ranch. And that's the testimony. Lead prosecutor attorney Suzanne O'Donnell, in her closing argument, argued that the state's view of all this testimony did not add up.
The defendant also said when they were by the front door to the house that he grabbed her by the wrist and hit her in the head. So when I asked her, okay, what do you mean hit? Well, I don't know. Okay, was it an open hand? Was it a closed hand? What was it? I don't know. She should know if a grown man balled up his fist and punched her in the side of the head. And there would be a lot more damage than what she claimed she had. But she didn't know. He just hit her.
I'm
Now-
going to pause here and just mention that I think that's a ridiculous argument.
Oh, I
But,
agree.
yeah, whether or not I believe that the tears are genuine, to say like, oh, she should know if it was a closed or open fist. When you're in an intense moment like that, you actually have no idea what's going on. The adrenaline is so high, things are moving so fast.
I agree. I thought that was a ridiculous comment by the prosecutor, Suzanne O'Donnell. I mean, if you're in the midst of a fight, you don't know whether hands are open, hands closed, whether it's the right hand, the left hand. I mean, sure, if you're a professional fighter, and I knew a Golden Glove boxer at one time, and he would have been able to recount every single blow in a fight. But no, I thought that was ridiculous. But bear in mind, the prosecutor won the day.
4 people testified that they saw her after this incident, very shortly after this incident. Well, one of them was 3 days later, but the rest of them were very shortly after this incident. John Sands, the neighbor, he didn't see any swelling. He didn't see any injuries. He didn't see any disheveled clothes like there'd been a rumble.
Okay, so that was the prosecution. That was part of their closing argument. Obviously, we're not going to play the whole thing. That would go on for quite a while, but so the jury obviously was listening. We don't get shots of the jury. Jurors are protected. We don't see the jury as well it should be. Prosecutors also claimed that Ashley killed because she had long wanted to gain sole custody. The prosecution had this whole theory that from the time she was first carrying the child, Ashley wanted to be a single mother, which I think is ridiculous. But anyhow, that was the theory. And they spun this tale about how, Ashley was pushing the husband away. She filed all of these domestic violence petitions, some of which did not go through. Some of them did, but some of which did not. And they told the whole story. But defense attorney Neil Taylor, the guy with the really deep voice, said that the evidence in the case showed that story didn't add up.
Doug Benefield shoots a gun into the ceiling of their kitchen to intimidate Ashley to stop speaking, punching the dog so hard that he knocked the dog unconscious. Abusers tend to hurt pets because they have no empathy and because, check your notes, they can control the victim because the victim loves the pets. So hurt the pets, you keep the victim in line. You get compliance, control, and compliance. That's what they seek.
And I'm going to pause here just to kind of point out something that I think he puts out here that I kind of agree with. Whether or not the actual scenario where he ended up getting shot was accurate, I don't really think anybody wants to be a single mother for no reason. I think that if she had any desire to be a single mother, that there could have potentially been some abuse going on prior. Having no signs of welts or disheveled clothes really means nothing. I think it's like you can get hit and not have any injury from that. It's like, especially someone just hits you in the head with their fist, I don't really think that you're gonna get too crazy unless it's more with a solid object, or I mean, there's so many different scenarios. But it, in a theoretical universe, it could be that he was abusing her, and maybe one day she had enough, and because it had been going on, took action. That's something that we'll never know, but we'll continue.
Threw the cat down the stairs, put a tracker on her car.
So that was, part of the closing argument of Ashley Benefield's attorney. Case went to the jury, and in a really very unusual kind of a move, they testified way late into the night, and around, I don't know, 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I kind of lost track of time because I'm kind of vegging out. It's getting kind of late for me, and I'm watching other YouTubes. I was watching some music on YouTube. That's how I relax at night. And a screen came up and said that the jury is deadlocked. The jury is deadlocked. And so everybody thought, oh no, not another Karen Reed mistrial, hung jury. But only an hour and a half later at night, I think it was just before 11 o'clock, the jury came back, and they came back with not the second degree. They came back with manslaughter. So it was an unusual move. I guess in Florida, that's how it's done. None of us are Floridians, but people that I've seen comment that are more familiar with the legal culture in Florida, that happens in Florida. They do testify late into the night. Boy, here in New England, they send them home 3:30, or if it's the Reed trial, they were sending them home at noon some days. But they never went beyond like around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So anyhow, so the jury was out that night, and they came back with manslaughter. And at this time, as of this the day we're recording this, there's been no sentencing. There's got to be an investigation, and then they'll come back and set a hearing. But for manslaughter in Florida, she could face up to 30 years, which I think is excessive, in my opinion. That seems a bit excessive, but that's the case.
Well, I have a couple of comments to make. And I don't know if it's because of my eyes and my glasses and whatever, but I didn't see tears when she was testifying. I don't know if anybody else did, but I didn't see tears. So, but I also noticed she was sniffling. So when you're sniffling, I mean, it could be allergies, it could be anything, but if you're tearing up, then you're sniffling. But if you're sniffling, it doesn't seem right to me that she was talking in a strained voice and sniffling, and then I didn't see any tears. But that could be just me.
I thought she was very genuine. I have a little bit of an acting and media background, but I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I mean, and I don't buy these, people that think that they can just tell by looking. I thought she was very genuine. I mean, if you look at what was going on in her life before this, there was a nasty custody battle. He had threatened her before. There was abuse. He threw her cat down the stairs. He beat the dog so seriously that the dog passed out. So I found her to be very genuine. But again, I was watching the trial on two different YouTube channels where there are these little chatties on the side, and the chatter rooms. I mean, Yoli, a lot of people agreed with you. The rooms were very much split, and people had really strong feelings. I didn't sense that it was a gender split. It was just really a split down the middle in the room, that a lot of people felt she was genuine, and a lot of people agreed with you, Yoli.
But here's the thing: it takes two to tango, right? And well,
go ahead.
Well, wait. It takes two to tango, and if you're in an abusive relationship, sometimes the the woman who's being abused might get angry as opposed to just, you know, upset or crying, or, you know, she might just get angry, because when you
I
look at everything, you know, you look at what he did to her cat and her dog, or whatever he did, and you might just get angry. And to me, it seems more like maybe she was angry, and rightfully so.
yeah, I sorry, you continue.
And that's what I mean by it takes two to tango. We each in a relationship, each person has their own emotions. And if he was abusing her, there are some women who don't fight back, who you know, who have difficulty with it and don't know where to get help and things like that. But then there are some who get angry. And you know, if you're angry, you may not cry. You know, you may just, you know, maybe she's expressing anger there as opposed to sorrow, or, you know, so, you know, if she was angry, I could see something like this happening in a relationship where she's fed up and she's angry. And does that excuse her shooting him? I don't know if she felt threatened, but I will tell you one thing, that I don't blame her for being angry. I mean, I would never, you know, think that that was an inappropriate feeling, but anger can come up in these situations. So that's why I say it takes two to tango. So I don't know what to make of it. Whether this is something genuine in terms of of sadness or fear, but it could be anger, that she doesn't know how to express it, and this is her way of expressing it, and it may seem like it's a little fake, but she doesn't know how. It's almost like, you know, women are trained not to be, or women culturally, you know, when a woman gets angry, oh, she's crazy. When a man gets angry, it's like, oh, we better, you know, it's one of these things where a lot of women don't know how to express anger. And so I could see that happening here, but I don't know enough. You know, I didn't see the whole trial. I don't know.
I found her to be very genuine. I see a woman that's upset. I see a woman that's beyond grief. I see a woman that, you know, she was trying. Actually, one of the little facts that I didn't get out here is she had been actually found. They did a search of her searches on the computer. And some of the searches that she did were how to get along with a mate in an abusive relationship, how to make an abusive relationship work. So she was trying. There's a lot of evidence that she was trying to do what she could do. She was working with it. She knew that she was in an abusive relationship. He, for God's sake, he's 20 years older than her. When they met, he was 54. She was 24. He's a huge guy. He was in the Navy. She's a diminutive, smaller ballerina. I don't have the exact height and weight descriptions here, but I mean, she's a diminutive young woman in her 20s, dominated by this big bully of a guy in his 50s. And I mean, you know, her story to me had the ring of truth. She was trying to get out of the whole thing. She was trying to get out of that house. She tried to leave the house. He wouldn't let her leave the house, according to her testimony. She wanted to stop the whole thing. She asked him to leave. He said, "I'm your husband. I don't have to leave." And she went into the room. He cornered her in the room. He actually struck her, which was the first time he'd actually struck her. A couple of other little facts that were before the little clip that we played here were that he had checked her twice. He'd shoulder checked her as they were carrying boxes twice. He took his shoulder and banged his shoulder into her. And another time he took a box and struck her side with the box. And the sheriff's deputies took photographs of that, and that went to evidence in the case. And so there is actually objective evidence to back up her story. And I found it outrageous that the prosecutor spoke the way she did, and I found it outrageous. I don't agree with this jury. We have a jury system, and we have to respect them. And of course, I respect the jury system, and I just but I don't. There's no law that says I have to agree with them, and I don't. I thought it was horrible that they didn't agree with her.
See, I just find it that, like, I believe that she was abused, and I believe she had been trying to get out of the relationship for a while. I believe the abuse against the animals, but at the same time, I believe that her story, the way her description could be true, but not necessarily what led up to the shot. There's no way to prove that. There's no way to know. But even if it happened, it didn't necessarily happen to have consecutively. And it could have been that something happened where she had had enough. She had been trying for a while and had that reaction. And maybe she had, like Yoli was saying with the anger, it's like she probably didn't fight back for however long that this was going on. And until one day, she snaps, which, like, ultimately it's really unfortunate, because if that's the case of what's going on, if she was being abused and she just couldn't handle it anymore,
Well, it wasn't that she couldn't handle it anymore. He cornered her in her room. She asked him to leave. He wouldn't leave. She tried to leave. He wouldn't let her leave. And so if we believe all that, it was that she was trying to get out of it. She was trying to either get him to leave or her leave. What were her other options? I believe her story fully. I think she's very credible.
But even if the bullet shot the back of his head?
Well, he had hit her 4 times, twice shoulder checking her, once with a box, and a third time on the side of the head. Maybe that was the first opportunity she did what she felt she had to do to get him the heck out of that room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fact, but it's not necessarily a case dispositive fact.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I do believe she was abused. I mean, I do believe that, especially the age difference and the fact that they got married so shortly after they met, 13 days after they met. I mean, those were all signs of somebody who is, and he's way older than her. No, I do believe she was abused. I just feel like what appears to some people that it doesn't look right. Like she's sniffling, but I don't see tears. I don't think necessarily that's fake. I think it's anger. And I think that she's trying to, I mean, if she just let it out, she would just be angry. And because a lot of times, she's trying to do what she thinks is appropriate in her mind, behave in a way that she thinks is appropriate. But I think she's angry. And I don't have anything to say. I mean, I don't blame her for being angry. The question is, she was convicted of manslaughter, and now what is her sentencing going to be? Was she, was she justified in being angry? Yes. Did she shoot him because she was angry, because she just wanted to get out, or was it self-defense? That's the question for me. But, I don't know.
It was a jury. That's why we have juries. Like I said before, that's why we have juries, and it's their sole province to determine credibility. As you know, Joel, all we can do is, as attorneys, is present the evidence, argue the evidence at the end. But the people that decide are the jurors, and the jurors spoke. We don't always have to agree with the jury, but they spoke in this case, and that's the end of it. Now, the next question was, are there appellate issues? And you can't appeal a case just because you don't agree with the jury, as I'm sure her attorney did not. So you've got to find some legal errors in the case. I thought that the judge was a little bit abrupt in putting together the final jury instructions, but I don't think that rises to the level of error. I didn't agree with all the evidentiary rulings in the case. But again, the appeals courts, as you know, you only give wide discretion to judges. So could the case be appealed? It will be appealed, I guarantee you. So the real question is, what are the chances that an appeal will be successful? And it's hard to say. I can't see her getting 30 years. But that's the potential sentence, up to 30 years. She has no criminal record. Of course, you don't need one.
And the other thing I was going to say is that she may have been prepared by her attorney to come across a certain way. she's trying to come across a certain way, and you prepare people for depositions, you prepare people for testimony, and they try to help you, how to be, not necessarily coach them, but they tell you, you don't want to come across as an angry, woman. You don't want to, but at the same time, there's every reason for her to be angry. I mean, so I don't know. It's a combination of one of these things where, yes, I believe she was abused, but her testimony, when she's testifying, I could see how people would think it's fake. And
I don't. I think you've said that a number of times, and I
Yeah.
totally disagree with you. I don't think she was a fake. I don't see how anybody reasonably can see that she was a fake. I can see you disagreeing with her. I can see you disagreeing with the need to shoot the man fatally. I can see you disagreeing with the way she handled, but to repeatedly say that it was a fake, that's disingenuous, Yuli.
No.
I'm sorry. I totally
No.
disagree with you. And you're saying she was a fake, and I don't see
No,
that
I'm
she
not
was fake.
saying she
Just
was a
because
fake.
she didn't have, we don't know. Maybe she has some kind of a disorder where she can't
It's
have,
true.
people have tear duct issues. I had eye surgery last year, and I was crying. People would come in the office and say, "Why are you crying?" I wasn't crying.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
had the opposite that I think she had. There are people that don't have tears. I
Yeah.
had the opposite. I had tears all the time. I'd walk into the office and it was cold outside and warm inside, and I would tear up. What's the matter? There's nothing the matter. I had eye surgery.
Well, all I'm
Successful
saying,
eye surgery. But you can't continuously, repetitively say she was a fake when you don't know that for a fact. Now, the
No.
jury agreed with you and not me. So I'll end my
I
rant
mean,
on that. But you can't
all I can-
repetitively say she was a fake, because I don't
No.
buy that.
Well, all I can say is that I can see how some people see that she was a fake, that she was faking it. But my opinion,
I don't see that she was a fake. I think that's disingenuous to say she was a fake.
No, my opinion is that I believe she was abused, and I believe she was angry. I don't believe she was fake. I believe she was trying to control her anger, as opposed to, being upset or I that's just my opinion.
Okay. Red, you've been awful quiet. Do you have anything to add to this before we move on?
I feel like I can definitely see it from both sides as well, because I really don't know her personal life,
Right.
I'm not, so I feel like I can't really I can't say she's lying, but I also can't say she's telling the truth,
Right. No, I understand, and we only played little clippets, but it is the jury's role.
Yeah.
I mean, they were there for 6 days. There were 6 days of testimony, and so it wasn't one of the longer trials like we've seen some other cases. But it is, in fact, if you're put on a jury, it is your role to make a decision and say, I think that, and it was tough. It was tough. And Yoli, I don't know if this is to maybe end on a note where we agree. I don't know if it's an appellate issue that they held the jury there until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, the closing arguments went on and on and on and on, and it took them all morning to do their conference on the jury instructions. And so by the time it went to the jury, I think it was about 5 o'clock. So I thought they were going to send them home and bring them back the next day to start their deliberations, but
It could be. I think it could be because people get tired and, after, and they're trying to get out of there, and they're, it could possibly be an appellate issue. And I don't know what the court rules are in terms of allowing this to happen.
I don't either. I mean, at the end of the day, I go home at 4 o'clock, and I make no apology for that, because you know what? I get stressed out. I need to go home and relax. I need to pick up the guitar or listen to some music or go to the gym and hit the punching bag,
Yeah.
whatever. But, I'm no good after about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm just wondering, did the jury just feel pressured in this case? Because again, the actual charge was second-degree murder. And word came down, I don't know, at some point around 10 o'clock that it was a hung jury. They could not make up their minds.
Yeah.
And so, but then I guess they were pressured. They were pressured.
Maybe they should have come back. Because isn't that, well, in Karen Reed, that's what they did. They came back.
Yeah.
And, if they were initially hung, I could see how they could how it could be a hung jury, and I could see how some jurors might not believe her. But if I mean, he did all those things that he did, you know, I just feel like if I were her attorney, I would have presented it completely different.
Really?
I don't know how to explain it, but I would have angered the jury to be angry at him, so that you know, that I don't know, because I didn't watch the whole trial and I don't know what the strategy was. So maybe she did that. Maybe the defense did that. But the key thing I think that is kind of confusing is that the anger's there, but it's not expressed. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Closing thoughts.
I mean, I definitely don't think she deserves 30 years. I definitely don't think she's ever going to be a repeat offender. I think that she's going to get a pretty, I don't know, it's hard to say, because I was going to say I feel like she's going to get a long sentence because, you know, she's a woman, but at the same time, and who killed the guy. But I do agree that she was probably a battered woman. As far as I think, Yoli, you bring up a good point about it potentially being anger, because I personally feel like if I was trying to cry, I could do a more convincing job at that.
Right.
But it sucks. I regardless of the circumstance of how it happened, I do think that it should be considered a level of self-defense. But at the end of the day, also, nobody really knows what was happening in that house. And, you know, just, I don't know. I feel like I get it. Nobody really knows what they would be doing in that scenario. We don't know how long and how extreme the abuse was.
Okay, so thank you for joining us. Please be kind to everyone, whether you're in the grocery store or the gas station. You don't know what they're going through. And, you know, same with our comments. Be kind, be polite. We got some great comments this week. Lainey and I did an episode, which you can go and check, where we actually read some of your comments, and you can comment on our comments on your comments. And we'll do that again, because that episode seemed to perform well. But just the only rule is don't personalize it. You can disagree with us. People disagree with me every day. It's okay. We read the comments. It gives us some food for thought. But thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts, and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
And that's that.
And that's that.
And that's that.
People that feel like they cannot get out, they have no way to get out. That is not this defendant. And it never was.
He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back.
Ms. Benefield, the jury, having found you guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, going to remand you to the custody of the Manatee County Sheriff. We're going to revoke your bonds. We're going to be held pending.